China, vast, ageless, eternal, the oldest living nation with a continuous culture, whose power seems to lie in her sheer magnitude. Conquered many times by many races, she has always assimilated the conqueror and made him Chinese too. What is the secret of this endurance that has enabled China to outlive the glory that was Greece and the splendor that was Rome? Probably the fact that her culture, traditions, and institutions are deep-rooted in her own earth, the good earth which has nurtured her population for countless years, the earth which has given birth to a wisdom of life as unconquerable as the land itself. A world-famed authority, Pearl Buck, tells us that all China, from the wealthiest landowner to the humblest peasant farmer, is conscious of its debt of gratitude to the earth. So ages ago, the Chinese instituted the Mid-Autumn Festival to thank Shan Nung, patron god of agriculture, for the gift of food. Just as our New England Pilgrim fathers sanctified the last Thursday of November in thanksgiving for their first harvest, so at sunset, Wang the farmer, all 400 million of him, dedicates a holiday to the rich black soil to which many times in many ages his ancestors have been gathered, where houses had stood, had fallen and gone back to the earth. And still the good earth goes on and on, for which Wang offers solemn thanksgiving. But after nightfall, the gratitude of 50 centuries bursts into gaiety as Wang and his fellow farmers pay their yearly tribute to Shan Nung. They take him to the nearby town to be their guest at the local theater. Have you ever been to the theater with a god? No? Then let's join the gay, lantern-lighted procession and escort Shan Nung to the playhouse, to the beating of gongs and the popping of firecrackers. And singularly appropriate, too, for in China the theater had its first beginnings in religious pageantry, gradually to evolve itself into the utterly delightful institution that it is today. Of course, to appreciate the performance, we must know that its realism exists principally in the minds of its audience. For instance, if an actor carries a whip in his hand, one instantly recognizes that he is riding on a horse. Trained from childhood to recognize these conventional symbols, the audience is as interesting as the performance. You must look only with awe at the learned dramatic critics, endlessly rolling walnuts between elderly fingers to keep them supple for the writing of Chinese letters. And you will kindly ignore the lowly coolies who wring out the hot towels perpetually stewing in a corner of the auditorium. Their peculiar value you will learn in due course. Comedy, tragedy, the dance, each has its established place on the Chinese stage. But to Occidental minds, perhaps the most engaging feature of a Chinese play is the property man. But don't look now. He's supposed to be invisible. That's why he's dressed in black, so that everyone can pretend not to see his activities, which are accepted as a special magic to handle the necessary mechanics of the show. For instance, we, being uninitiated, probably imagine we see him piling chairs on tables. But to the Chinese, those are not chairs and tables. They're twin mountains rising from a wind-swept plain. And the narrow space between them is the Rainbow Pass, from which our 8th-century-old drama takes its name. I don't have to introduce the characters. Sensibly enough, in the Chinese theater, they always do that for themselves.
I am Sen Wen Li, Generalissimo of the Imperial Army. My wife's name is Dong Fang. She, too, is a mighty warrior. For many moons, my army has held the Rainbow Pass against the reprehensible Wang Tung, who seeks to invade our country. How quiet it is today. It looks as if it's about to snow. How cold it is!
Whoa, my faithful steed! I am Wang Patang, General of the invading army. As every attempt of my soldiers have failed to overcome the stubborn resistance of Shen Wen Li, I I must fall back on strategy. Perhaps I can find him alone. Ah, there he is.
Consort of the illustrious Sun Wen Li, Generalissimo of the Imperial Army. I have come seeking my husband. My husband, the illustrious Sun Wen Li, has been slain. Alas, my poor husband, I must avenge his death. With my own hand, I must decapitate the despicable Wong Pa-tung.
The impudent Dong Fang, widow of my dead enemy Shen Wen Li, has had the audacity to challenge me to personal combat. Therefore, I brought my army of 1,000 infantry and 1,000 cavalry to guard against ambush. Soldiers, parade! Comes in her war chariot.
Are you Wong Pa-tung?
I am.
Miserable creature, if I conquer you, I will cut off your head.
Beautiful lady, if I conquer you, I'll make you my wife.
Primitive, wasn't it? Of course it was. To us so superbly civilized that our imaginations are numb from disuse. But to the youngest child, to the simplest farmer lad in that audience, it was a canvas of epic size and flavor. We saw chairs and tables, but he visualized a dazzling rainbow pass, sliced between towering mountains, a white charger bearing hero and heroine as manly and lovely as he could create in the secret garden of his own mind. That's why Wang the farmer loves his theater. Wise men speak of the sleeping yellow giant, the teeming Chinese millions, whose limitless spiritual resources are expressed with rich dignity by a great author who wrote of China, "My country hides her beauty. She is like a virtuous woman who puts on sober clothes before strangers at the gate. And only within the walls of her own house does she wear colors, put rings on her hands, and jewels in her ears." Thank you for taking us to your theater, Chan Nung, god of agriculture, patron deity of the earth of China.